You can make this dua. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sa'la wa anta taj'alul hazna sahlan illa shi'ta. Oh Allah, there is no ease except in that which you have made easy. And you make the difficult easy if you wish. It's all there. Okay, so those are the du'as and other du'as that you must read. So what are the other ways of overcoming nervousness? Have a good breakfast. Yes, have a good breakfast. Healthy breakfast. Because of your nervousness, you don't have breakfast and things, you're going to go there. one hand, your butterflies are in your stomach, the other hand, you're feeling hungry. Have a good breakfast. Don't overdo it. Have a healthy breakfast. Right. Then, try out the abdominal breathing technique. Now, without changing the position in which we're sitting and without changing how we're breathing, just observe how we are breathing for the next few seconds. Just observe how we're breathing. Okay. Are we breathing deeply or are we breathing shallowly? Shallowly. We're just breathing the top part of our lungs just below the collarbone. That's how we're breathing. That's not how we're supposed to be breathing. We are supposed to be breathing deeply, like that exercise I gave you earlier. Breathe deeply. While we're sitting there, let's breathe deeply through our nostrils. Keep the breath in our lungs and then breathe out slowly. Let's do that once or twice. Again. Okay, so that is how we're supposed to be breathe. Now, a person on the average breathes about 20,000 times a day. All of us. So imagine 20,000 times a day we're breathing shallowly. Not helping too much, just keeping us alive. When we breathe deeply, what does it do? The oxygen goes to all the cells in the body. Sufficient oxygen goes into your brain. It keeps you awake. When you breathe shallowly, when there's less oxygen going to your brain, it makes you sluggish and sleepy. Right? So there's lots of benefits of breathing deeply. A baby, when it's born, how does it breathe? Shallowly or deeply? Deeply. That is how we're supposed to breathe. But as we grow up, we forget about how we're supposed to breathe. So imagine if you're breathing 20,000 times a day, and just some of those breaths we take deeply, the oxygen is going through the required parts of the body, and we're getting that benefit. So even in public speaking, take deep breaths. If you are nervous, you're about to speak, you are called, or someone is introducing you, and whilst you are sitting and you're getting nervous, sit there, take a few deep breaths. When you take deep breaths, what happens to you? What happens? Can't you feel there's oxygen going into your brains? Can't you feel this? Take a couple of deep breaths. Can you feel a slight difference in your brain? Right, now imagine if you breathe deeply, repeatedly, what a difference it makes. So before we are called onto the stage, take a few deep breaths, it helps. One way of practicing deep breathing is this. When you're lying on the bed, put a book on your stomach and breathe deeply. And when you do that and you see the book moving up and down, then you're breathing properly. And when you breathe deeply, it also assists your voice to be thrown out into the venue clearly. Okay, so there's lots of benefits of breathing deeply. Next, go for a quick walk. Before you speak, you're nervous. Walk. When you walk, then some of your nervousness will get off. That's why lots of public speakers, before they speak, you might see them walking up and down the corridors. Last place I was working, my office was on the 4th floor. The training room was on the ground floor. Every time I used to go and give training, I never used the lift. Deliberately, I walked down the stairs. Why did I walk down the stairs? To relax me, so I could breathe deeply as well. Okay. Use creative visualization. Visualization is visualize in your mind that you are being successful. Visualize in your mind. Don't visualize in your mind that you're a failure, that I'm not going to do well. What are people going to think about me? Is my speech going to be accepted? Don't think about those things. Think positively. So positive visualization. Some years ago, it was impossible for anyone to run a 4-minute mile. 4-minute mile was unheard of. Today, hundreds and hundreds of people have run the 4-minute mile. But that was a barrier people couldn't reach. And then there was a British athlete. What was his name? Bannister, Jack Bannister. Jack Bannister, he was the best athlete at the time in a mile race. But he never broke the 4-minute mile. So he went for coaching, special coaching to a coach. And that coach, after coaching him, he said, as far as your technique is concerned, as far as your fitness is concerned, there's nothing preventing you from breaking the 4-minute mile. But what you need to do, you need to visualize that you are breaking the tape under 4 minutes. That's what he started doing. So while he's lying on the bed, before going to sleep, just after he gets up, he's visualizing, he's breaking the tape under 4 minutes. Every time he's running, breaking the tape under 4 minutes, breaking the tape under 4 minutes. And then when he ran the race, he was the first person in the world to break the 4-minute mile. But the story doesn't end there. That same week, another 3 people broke the 4-minute mile in the world. It was impossible to break the 4-minute mile. And within a month, 32 people broke the 4-minute mile in the world. So what happened? What happened? Why was it? It was impossible for anyone to break the 4-minute mile. And after he broke the 4-minute mile, 32 people broke it in 1 month. Correct. So he himself visualized that he was breaking the 4-minute mile. And once he did it, what the other people say? If he can do it, why can't we do it? Right? So you also visualize that you are being successful. Visualize, we don't go there for applause, but visualize, you're getting a big applause at the end of it. People are saying, MashaAllah, Subhanallah, they're happy with your talk. You feel good also, you got your message across. Visualize that you are being successful. It will relax you. Squeeze a stress ball. Stress ball or a squash ball. Just because you are excited. So in one way to release the stress is to do that. Head outside in the sun, go out in the sun, stand in the sun. That will assist you as well. If you're unable to go out into the sun, then look out of the window. Look outside. That will also relax you. They say that you must eat a banana if you can. Bananas are full of beta blockers, which treat anxiety, reduce blood pressure, and calm the heart. Now, sportsmen, tennis players, and other sportsmen, between their rounds, or during the breaks, quite often, you see, actually, there's international tennis players, they'll have the bananas, they eat a banana. Why? Because it gives them energy, one, but also it relaxes reduces the anxiety. Tell yourself nobody's perfect. Ask yourself what was the worst scenario could be. Could you die? That's not plausible. Nobody is perfect. We are not perfect. So tell ourselves that. What's the worst that can happen? I'm going to be giving this talk. Right? It's the first talk I'm giving. What's the worst that can happen? You won't die. Right? And then you learn from your mistakes and then you'll improve. They say you can sip green tea. It contains L-theanine, which helps release stress and calm you down. If green tea is too bitter, then try normal water, but keep yourself hydrated. Okay, so just keep on drinking water or whatever. Green tea is good. Right? Next, dangle your arms and twirl your wrists whilst waiting to speak. So, soon you're going to be speaking, so relax yourself. Right? Dangle your arms, wring your wrists, twirl your wrists whilst you are waiting. Who does this? Have you seen anyone doing this? Have you? Boxers? Anyone else? wrestler, athletes, Olympic Games, the 100 meters. Before the person runs 100 meters, what do you see the people doing? Don't you see them doing that? Right. Now they're not doing that in order to get fit. They're already fit. Not to get warmed up, they're already warmed up. Because Olympic Games, before they come onto the track, in the stadium itself, below the stands, there's already a track there and they're warming up there. They're already warmed up. So why is it that they're doing this? They're doing this to release the anxiety, their anxious nervousness, right? So that is what we can do. So if we are sitting one side, then just do this. Relax yourself. Then, don't fight the fear. If you are fearful, don't try and fight it. See what is it that can make you relax and just do those things. Find out what you do when you are nervous and eliminate it. So you need to realize the next time you are speaking, just see what is it that you are doing that's making you nervous. Sometimes you might be clenching your fists. Sometimes you might be folding your arms quite tightly to yourself. Sometimes you might be sitting with your one leg above the other leg. Right? So see what you're doing. And then try and eliminate that. So if you are sitting there and the MC is introducing you and you're seeing that you are doing these things, whatever they are, then just stop doing them. So if you're clenching your fists, folding your arms tightly, just release it. Right? Consciously you must do it. But what you'll notice is shortly after that you'll do it again. Because you're not used to it. Then again do it. Again release it. So if you do not know what you do when you are anxious, you're not going to be rectifying it. And lastly, smile. Bring a big smile on your face and say, bring it on. Put a smile on your dial, as they say. Right? So these are, I've given you 21 different ways of overcoming nervousness. See what works for you? Right? Simple things, can they be implemented? Can they? They can, right? Simple things. So there's no need for us to be nervous. But as I said, nervousness is natural. All of us, we do become nervous no matter how proficient, how professional we might be. Now, is there any value? Can there be any benefit from being nervous? What do you think? Can there be? What's the benefit?
Somehow it keeps you on your toes.
Keeps you on your toes, yes. It does not make you complacent. What else it does?
Improve yourself.
Sorry?
Push you to improve yourself.
Push you to improve yourself, correct? There are benefits. Right, so if you are nervous, it's fine, it's natural. So what are some of the benefits? It gives you energy. It gets that adrenaline pumping, right, when you are nervous. You can't be too relaxed. Too relaxed also is no good. There has to be a little bit of anxiety. Because if you are too relaxed, then what happens? Then you become overconfident. Now, quite often we come across football matches, like in England, they have the Premier League. The Premier League, you might have a team that won the league this year and a team that's right at the bottom and they're going to be relegated. But when you get the FA Cup, that's a knockout. And in FA Cup, you might get in the final, the team that won the league this year is playing the team that's going to be relegated at the end of the year. So who do you expect to win? The top team or the bottom team? Who do you expect to win? Top team. Quite often who wins? The bottom team. Why do they win? See, because it gives them energy. Get that adrenaline pumping, and also they're not overconfident. Who's overconfident? The team that has already won. See, so it is good to have a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of anxiety, nothing wrong with it. But we need to, as I say, we need to train the butterflies to fly in formation. It mustn't be flying all over the show. Okay, and how can you make them train to fly in formation? Use some of these 21 ways of overcoming nervousness. Nervousness shows respect for your audience, right? Otherwise, you're overconfident. Also show no respect, and you won't even go prepared. Then you'll spend, as you say, half an hour before your Jummah khutbah. That shows confidence. That shows respect for your audience. Listen. Okay, we have now completed the main parts of our presentation. We've completed the introduction, having the correct intention, whose example we should follow, etc. Secondly, we've looked at your presentation, the contents of your presentation, the beginning, the middle, the end, etc. And thirdly, we've looked at overcoming nervousness. Now I'm going to be covering some miscellaneous topics. And also I did some demonstration to you, not physical demonstrations of yours, but I showed you some good public speakers. Let's just reflect on what we saw. I showed you all 3 videos. One of Sheikh Ahmed Deedat, and the 2 other Arab sheikhs. What did you like about how they spoke? Just a few minutes before we move on. What did you like about how they spoke? What grabbed your attention? What you found impressive? Quickly.
Their clarity in their speech.
Clarity in the speech, right?
Arriving speaking. The way they were, their moderation in speaking.
The moderation in which they spoke, correct?
They spoke from their heart. That's why they...
Absolutely, they spoke from the heart. And that is why it got into our hearts and some of us were cheering.
The tone, their voice,
The?
the tone, the way they speak, the tone.
What's the word? Oh, the tone of voice. Yes, correct. The tone of voice. So at times they were raising their voice, at times they were dropping their voice, right? That's important. Yes, anything else?
Passion.
Sorry?
Passion.
Passion. They spoke with passion. Absolutely. What else?
And body presentation. Body.
Body. Okay, with gestures, etc.
Self-confidence.
They were full of confidence. Yes.
The arrangement of the point.
Arrangement of points. Very well structured.
When they were giving examples, they were, precise. Like when he said the moon and the face of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he repeatedly, so they can see the differences.
Correct. That I thought was a classic example of good delivery. We'll discuss some of the other points also in a moment. So when he was looking at the moon, and then he was looking at Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So he looked at the moon, and he looked at the beloved Prophet, and he looked at the moon, and he looked at the beloved Prophet. So 3 times he mentioned this, right? He could have said, and he looked at the moon, and he looked at the face of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the face of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was much more beautiful than the moon. But the effect is different. Pointing there, pointing there, pointing there, pointing there. What a difference. Okay, anyone else? You had something to say?
Yeah, I like the vocabulary.
Vocabulary. Okay.
No, he took it.
Okay. What you need to do in your own time, go into have a look at YouTube's videos and other places, and have a look at the good public speakers. Even you have Toastmasters. Toastmasters have annual competitions. The best Toastmaster presentation in the world. For 2015, the best Toastmaster presentation was an Arab, English-speaking, from one of the Emirates. Best Toastmaster speech in the world, right? So have a look at Toastmasters, top speeches in the world. Have a look at the good Islamic speeches. And what you can do is, you need to learn from the good speakers, but do not copy them. Important. Do not try and copy them, because if you try and copy them, then you will come across not as authentic and genuine. Like if there is a great speaker in our town, and I want to copy that speaker, sometimes you might be able to do it, but quite often the audience will be able to see that you are trying to mimic someone else, right? So try and be yourself. Be yourself, but use the examples of others and learn from them. Okay, let's move on to some of the miscellaneous topics. Okay, let's look at these. Yes.
Well, here we are discussing, people that you can actually see.
Yes.
Do you have any advice for radio interviews or radio shows? How would you approach it? Because the audience is actually on the other side. You actually don't see them.
So the radio show should be no different. If you're on air, if you're on the radio, at the radio station, not a problem. You can just imagine that the audience is looking at you. So as you're speaking, as you have a smile on your face, if it's a TV audience, you should have a smile on your face even for a radio audience, because your demeanor comes through, even like a telephone. Quite often they tell you that if you're a telephone receptionist, make sure that you smile on your side of the phone, because on the other side, they will be able to hear the smile in your voice. Same. Okay. These are some of the topics that we wanted to discuss now. But what we'll do, we only have about 5 minutes left. So in the context of those presentations we saw, and some of the examples of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we will use this. Now, body language is everything else besides your speech. Your speech is verbal. Body language is everything else you can see on me. So you can see my gestures. You can see how I'm walking, how I'm approaching you, even the tone of voice. You can see the expressions on my face. Sometimes you might be angry. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had the full gambit of different emotions he used to show. So if he was happy, you could see it on his face. If he was angry, if he was cross with the Sahaba for something, you could see it on his face. His face would become red. One of the Sahabis stated that when the Prophet ﷺ was cross, it was as if pomegranate seeds were burst on his face. Pomegranate dark red. His eyes would become bloodshot if he was quite angry about what he was talking about. Right? The arm gesture is here, starting here. Right? Quite often when we do like this, it's not very effective as gestures. But if we use our arms, the size of your gesture will be determined by the size of your audience. So if it's a big hall, then your gestures will be large. If it's a small audience, your gestures will be small. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, did he use gestures or not? Give an example. When was it that Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam pointed to the sky? Hajjatul Wida, after giving his speech, what did he say? He pointed to the sky and he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you be my witness that I've conveyed the message to them. That's gesture. And then, when he then pointed to the Sahaba, he pointed in this form. Have I not conveyed the message to you? There was an occasion when Prophet ﷺ was telling the Sahaba about being very careful with the speech, whatever they say. What he did, he said, be careful of this. He held his tongue. So the Sahaba who were there, that was more powerful than saying, just watch your tongue. Isn't that so? They won't forget that. When anyone talks about what Nabi Muhammad ﷺ had to say about orphans, what is that gesture that comes to our mind immediately? What did he say? Yes, one is touching the head of the orphan, but that person and I will be, how in Jannah? We will be like this in Jannah. That comes immediately to mind. Gestures were used by Nabi Muhammad ﷺ. Public speakers, we need to use gestures. Now, emotion, you would see it, as I mentioned, in the face of Nabi Muhammad ﷺ. Sometimes he raised his voice. Sometimes he lowered his voice. Once a Sahabiya, she was in a house, and she said the Prophet ﷺ was speaking on this particular topic, and he had raised his voice. So much so that in the house, outside the Haram Sharif, I was able to hear clearly what he was saying. So at times he raised his voice, at times he lowered his voice. Right? Times he smiled, times he was angry. Storytelling, this you'll find repeatedly everywhere. Prophet ﷺ used to give stories of the people of the past, isn't that so? He used to give the incidents of the Anbiya of the past, isn't that so? Prophet ﷺ gave the incident about the woman who was of loose morals. However, when she saw the dog that was thirsty, what did she do? She lowered something into the well, got water, fed the dog, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave her. That was a story, an incident that was relevant to what he was talking about. See, so you need to use stories. They're very powerful, but they must be relevant. Humor. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used humor. They say that there was no person besides him who used to smile so much when he spoke to the Sahaba. Always he had a smile on his face. Despite the worries that he had and the concern for the ummah, you could see the smile on his face. Right? Humor, couple of things to remember. One, if you're cracking jokes, certain things you must never do. Do not crack jokes about people's religion. Do not crack jokes about people's disability. Do not crack jokes about people being overweight unless you also overweight. Do not crack jokes about people being bald unless you also bald. Do not crack jokes about politics. Do not crack jokes about racial jokes. These are things you don't touch on. Okay? But humor has got its place. There are big advantages of being humorous. Some of the advantages is sometimes the topic might be dreary, it might be boring, you might be losing the people. So you crack a joke, they become alive. Isn't that so? The other thing is, it's what's called, is there in your book, self-deprecating humor. Do not laugh at other people's expense. Laugh at your own expense. Laugh at your own expense. Very difficult to laugh at yourself. That's why we like to laugh at other people. I'll give you one quick example and then we'll terminate there. I've got 4 sons. As the sons were growing up, going to university, and then they used to go out with their friends. Sometimes we tell them, okay, make sure Saturday night you're going out, 10 o'clock you're back. 10 o'clock they're not there, 11 o'clock they're not there, 12 o'clock they're coming. Then we warn them, this is the last time you're going to go out, make sure you don't come back after 10. So then 10 o'clock still not back, 11 o'clock, I said, right, no more, you're not going out again. The next time you go out, take your clothes with you. You heard that story before? Huh? Yes, you heard that story before. So the next time one of my sons wanted to go out, I said, right, we told you this was going to be your last time. Now you go with your friends, take your clothes with. He's not interested, he's going out. The car is waiting for him. So I run into the house, I open his cupboard, I take his clothes, and I run after him and I throw it behind him. So he turns around, he looks at it, big grin on his face, like it's a big joke. Right, I'm getting more and more furious. I run back into the house, I open the drawer, pull out all his socks and underwear, everything, and I throw it behind him. Again, he just looks there with a big, broad smile on his face. And I'm getting worried. Now, why is he doing this? And then my other son comes running from the house. Papa, Papa, those are my clothes. And guess who had to pick them up? Right, now that's an example of self-deprecating humor. You laugh at yourself. Very difficult to do. Very difficult to do. The people laugh at you. But if you can have self-deprecating humor, the advantage is that you can connect with your audience. And they know that you are at their level. You're not a professor or whatever else, and you are there and they are here. Right? And then you can. So there's definite advantages. So we don't have time for this. Visual aids, etc. So this is all in your book. The purpose of today's presentation was not for fun. It was not just to full time. Right? The purpose is you have now got the knowledge. Whatever you learned here and whatever you've been learning in your own time. Now we need, one is the contents you have, then we need the skill for the presentation. So what we tried to do was give you some idea of contents, but more about presentation. So you need to be able to get across the message in the best way possible. A Muslim, he does not know what is meant by mediocrity. Being average, a Muslim does not know what that means. A Muslim he only excels. He is extraordinary. A Muslim is extraordinary because he puts in a little bit extra to the ordinary. That's what we are. So when we go out from here, let's make it our job. We've got the information. We're going to go back. We're going to study that information. We have to, otherwise you wasted your time. Secondly, you're going to be going through this book. Read one chapter, one chapter questions. Read one chapter in the book. Leave the book down. Answer the questions, simple questions. Right. What are some of the ways of overcoming nervousness? As an example, you read about it there. Open the book. Answer it. That is how you'll be internalizing. That's how you're going to be learning. Thirdly, firstly, you're going to be reading. Secondly, you're going to be answering. Thirdly, you're going to be telling others about it. You're going to be practicing it, telling others about it. Every opportunity you get to speak, speak. Even if you are afraid to speak, if they want someone just to introduce someone or conclude the presentation, just give a vote of thanks, anything. The first opportunity you get, take it. But make sure that you have sufficient time to prepare.
We are the Muslim Ummah.
Alhamdulillah, 1 in 5 people in the world is a Muslim. But have we considered that 4 out of 5 people may die without Islam? 4 out of 5 may never get the chance to read the glorious Holy Quran. Become a lifetime partner with the Islamic Propagation Center International Dawah Quran Project and help bring real solutions to the 4 out of 5 people searching for answers. By sponsoring a Holy Quran, you give the gift of life, real life. IPCI, Dawah Quran Project. It's time to get involved.
Call IPCI now. IPCI, encircling the globe with the message of Islam.